welcome to Conquering Mount Scrapmore with Brenda. I'm Brenda, and we're here today with the Psychedelic Snowflake, and we're going to do the piece border block. Yes, we're at the end of the Psychedelic Snowflake so long. It has been so much fun, but it's time to move on to other projects. I'm also going to give you, in the show notes below, besides the PDF for the piece border pieces, you're going to have an alternate layout there. In case you didn't want to do like sew it in rows and you just want to make blocks and have those sewn together. This is entirely up to you how you want to do this quilt. But the piece border blocks will work for either layout. So now, before we get into the sewing, because we all know everybody's anxious to get to the sewing, I want to talk to you about our shout out today. Sean, the guy who sews, we have done a few things together, and he has been a lot of fun. So I want you guys to go check him out. Take another look at him. And if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button and tell him that Brenda from Conquering Mount Scrapmore sent you. It's been a wonderful adventure with him, and we've had some great interviews. So, like I say, go check him out. Share, like, and subscribe our channel as well. I mean, with your friends and your relatives and people that are sewing and guilds, because I speak for free for guilds and quilting groups. Now, this has been so much fun. We've met so many quilters from all over. It has been an amazing experience for me, and it's helped me build my public speaking skills. And we talk about making scrap quilts and working on charity quilts. So if your guild is interested in this kind of a presentation, let them know. I do it over Zoom. I have a PowerPoint presentation, and it's free. The other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is there's a Zoom sew date link in our show notes below as well. And we do that once a month, and it's usually the first Saturday of the month. And the dates are listed there for when we've decided when we're going to go. And though we're having a lot of fun on those sew dates, I get lots done during that time. And it runs from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, because it's amazing the number of people that show up from all over. We have people from Europe and the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and of course, the States and Canada. We've had a few visitors from South America and Indonesia. So it's been really great. Now, the other thing is our Facebook group is growing rapidly. We're having all sorts of fun in there. We're making use of the virtual sewing rooms. We have fabric swaps. We have community chats, lots of community chats, as well as the normal sharing pictures, asking questions, and getting all sorts of fun things. We also are looking for free patterns, which are also really, there's a community chat on where to find free patterns. So that's also a really good thing to have. So come on in. Let's get to the sewing. Okay, so here we are at the sewing machine. Now, the PDF is below, but I mean, it's going to be one of these patterns that, comes out perfectly. Now, this is going to be 6.5 unfinished, 6-inch finish. So if your cornerstones are 6.5 unfinished, it's going to match perfectly on your border. Now, honestly, guys, I pulled out of my crumbs and my strings to make this block. So if you have a bunch of oddball little things in there, you can use them now. Now, I also scored, I don't know if you can see that, I scored it with my tracing wheel, and I have now lines that I can fold and I can look at. So I'm going to fold between 1 and 2 to get going here. Turn my light on my sewing machine, find my foot pedal, because that's always important. And I'm just going to lay down some random squares. Yeah, right sides together. Now, I'm always trying to make this a little longer, or a little bit bigger than I need to, because it's easier to trim off and try to add later. And I don't have a leader ender project. Okay, so there we go. Well, I guess we will be using our handy dandy plug. Okay, now there is the first one. Now you saw I didn't even use pins for this, right? So I'm going to bend this now between 2 and 3, and I don't even have an add a quarter ruler down here. I forgot to pack one, and I was like, oh dear, oh well. There's people that manage this without, that kind of thing going on. So, all right, there. Now, this, see what I do is I pre-cut all my stuff first. Now, this is oversized, obviously, but it's a scrap. Right now, it's a scrap. So, I didn't want to cut it down. I figured, oh, it's time it goes. If it's in my crumbs, if it was in my crumbs, it was going. So, but yeah, but all the pieces, all the blocks I made for this, every one of them I pulled from my strings and my string and my crumb bins. So that's how friendly, user friendly this is. Now, it doesn't matter if you go this one first or this one first, but we will follow in order. We'll put 2 blacks on. There we go. And we'll just pull this back out of the way. There. Was that a sew date in my thumbnail? Just snapped back in such a painful. Yeah, I'm just going to put a little tape there because I don't want to be losing my tape. Is your friend on these kinds of things. Just a little bit. There we go. Now, again, square this up. There we go. And then just putting all my stuff on the side. Now, what I do is I make sure from the back, this is a 1/4 inch, but this is bigger, right? So I make sure that I have a little bit better coverage, and that's how I do this. There we go. Now, if I make a mistake, I'll show you how to unpick from a foundation paper piece project. Most people know. Most people know this already. You pick from the cloth side, not the paper side. You'll rip your paper too badly. So there we go. Just put that out like so. Nope, that's good. Okay, now I'm gonna bend the other side. I very much enjoy foundation paper piecing. You get all sorts of strange little things that you would never be able to do with templates, or you wouldn't be able to do this with templates, or, oh, I lost a piece. Or you wouldn't be able to make these kinds of blocks without foundation paper piecing. And I just lost a piece, so I'm going to quickly put it back in place and give it a quick tape. There we go. Tape it all together where it needs to be taped. Now I'll go back and just squish that in there. Make it sure it sticks to the tape. When you're taping stuff because you've lost an edge or something like this, right? Make sure that you iron from this side, not the other side. Otherwise, you'll do a lot of damage to your iron very quickly. So I just lay that down. I know they're a little on the long side, so I'm not worrying about it. Yeah. There we go. Everything's still lined up beautifully. Now I hold and I make like 3 or 4 stitches in place, and that provides me with a knot. And that knot is very helpful when it comes to keeping this together. There we go. Now, okay. So get rid of the little strings that are here. Okay, so next one is 6. We're already at 6. Like I say, a lot of this I found from my crumb bin. I decided that was good enough to use and get this stuff used up too, right? Okay, so now when I'm laying this down, because it's at an angle, I want to make sure I've got good cover. I've got good coverage because this thing is huge, and it's on. There's a little bit of, okay, there it is. So I want to make sure I've got good coverage. There we go. Okay, so now I'm just gonna turn it and sew it. Okay. Now I'm making sure nothing has shifted. Oh, it's perfect. Okay. Some of this stuff I'm going to have some bigger pieces that have to be taken off, but that's okay. That's okay. When they're a crumb or string, it's like, yeah, most people would have thrown it out already. So but in my shop, or in my sewing room, I try and make it, into something else first. Okay. So that's kind of a cute little Christmassy print. And it's not too dark. That was the other thing. Can't be too dark. So now we go between 5 and 7 is our next spot. There we go. And there. Here. So we lay this one down, and I always lay them down so as how they're going to look. So I want that to be just a bit over. Yes, I do. Got some cute little ladybugs going on. Okay. Now, okay. This I found when I was doing my border pieces. I found 8 to be the hardest because it's a very long, narrow piece, and it doesn't. Sometimes it twists and it gets all rumply, right? Or it gets shifts as you go. Now, there's a couple ways of handling 8. So let's fold between these 2 and 8 first, and just clean up that line that we're going to have to be laying that black piece against, right? Because this is 8, this long, narrow piece. There we go. And again, I'm going to have to, okay, again, I'm going to have to put some tape on it. Okay. Well, that's okay. Yeah, I've got my stitches cranked right up to 25 to 30, probably closer to 30 an inch. So this stuff will come off easy. There. Yeah, tape's your best friend with these. Now, I'm going to, there, just like so. Okay. Now, just continue my line. Now, both of these are too small to add back into the strings because they're too thin. So now, 8 requires a steadier hand. So what I did is I want to make sure I've got good coverage and I can see the black strip from both sides, right? Like when I'm putting this down and I'm flipping it like this, I'm holding on to it so it doesn't move, it doesn't shift, because it will twist a bit sometimes, right across. Nice straight line. And it's a thin line. Now I left that black piece just a little on the thick side. That's okay. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay. There. Now we're going to put the number 9 on. So we're folding between 9 and 8. And yes, the ruler is not long enough. That's okay. Just move the ruler. There we go. Like I say, I pulled some of this stuff right out of my string bin. It's like, oh Lord. And I had, that's a nice healthy size string. I mean, we might as well. There we go. Move it just a little bit that way. There. And we've got it kind of centered so we can see it. And then that way, if we can see it on both sides of the paper, that means we can hold on to it. Okay. But anytime you're doing something really long and narrow, that's, it's kind of a little cheat. Make it just a little bit longer so you can actually hold on to it. And then that way too, you're there. Okay, there. And that way it'll stay nice and flat for you. So now, like 10 is also long and narrow, right? That black piece there. And okay, that's too skinny. Black piece there. See, what I do too is I cut all my pieces prior to, and then I don't worry about it. Okay. And I don't worry about that there's no, maybe not any pink polka dot fabric in the rest of my quilt. I don't worry about stuff like that. It's like, it'll work, it'll be fine. Yeah. Okay. I'm probably the only person on YouTube that wants to make a mistake so you guys can see how to do something, but I'm not going to go out of my way to make a mistake. But when because I've got my stitches up, cranked up to like 25 to 30 stitches an inch, and I have no idea what setting that is on a modern machine. You need a real fine tipped stitch ripper, right? Because you're picking from this side, like you'd be picking from this side of the fabric. All right, okay, let's get the sunglass paper stuff on. This is so cute. Okay. There. Okay, so if I'm doing, let's say, a bunch of these at once, right? Because sometimes people, they have to bulk sew, right? It's more efficient with your time if you bulk sew sometimes. I'm just gonna make sure that's nice and flat. I would have all of my pieces cut beforehand. I would lay them out. Let's say I was making 6 at a time or 12 at a time or whatever. I would have all 12 pieces ready to go. So I'm not sitting here struggling and trying to figure out, oh, what's next? What's this? What's that? No, that's not easy to do, right? We haven't got that many more pieces to go. This went a lot quicker than I thought it would. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Yeah, you can have a lot of fun with this block. If you wanted to make an entire quilt out of just this block, it would look like a fish, right? You could play around with the background colors and, like a striped fish. This would be watercolors. These would be watercolors, and the rest would be like, like vibrant, like tropical fish kind of thing going on. So that was one of the reasons. Now this is definitely a scrap. Might be big enough when I'm done to go back. Okay, there we go. Now this dark purple is definitely a dark purple, but it works. There's just enough. You do see it. It hasn't got the really high contrast that the pink and the teal do, but you can still see it. So it's still all good. Okay. Ooh, this one is big enough to go back into the scraps. Okay, now last up, or not almost, last black. So there we go. Now you see what I mean when I put the black on. There is contrast. Okay, there we go. Okay, and last piece. Wow, that didn't take very long. When I was making the first batch that I was sitting online chatting with a bunch of people. It took me all day because I was spending more time chatting than anything else. So I got some fun little prints. Okay, there we go. And okay. Now if you're doing these too for, let's say, a show quilt, you'd want to, you know, like sew, trim, press, sew, trim, and you're not finger pressing, you're like actually using an iron. But so now we flip it over. I put my 1/4 inch line on my 1/4 inch markings on my ruler on this line, not this one, this line. So I make sure everything lines up nice. Oops. Yeah, it's all lined up. And this is so strange because I'm usually standing when I'm doing this. Okay, there we go. There. Nice. There. They don't look like anything until you trim them. Okay. There we go. Oops. Okay. There. Now, I'm going to quickly run around the outside with stay stitching because that helps. Everything now on this thing is on a bias right now. Right? Like all the strips are pretty much on a bias. And I want all of that not to stretch, right, as we're putting through. So I just go around just within the seam allowance. Just, you know, make it stay in place so it doesn't stretch and doesn't get all distorted. Right? Because some of the, even the triangles, some of them were, the outer edge would have been distortion. So here we go. We'll get to our ta-da moment and the alternate layout. Okay, so this is the border block I made, and you saw how quick this went together. I mean, I know it's 15 pieces on this little 6.5 inch square unfinished, but it worked. It came together really quickly. Now I dug through my crumbs and my strings to get these blocks made. Like, it's I was amazed at how much stuff I could dig out of that resource that most people were, you know, just throwing away. Now I made 7 blocks. I could make more. I'm not sure what I'm going to do here yet. But there is an alternate layout. Let's first look at the alternate layout. The alternate layout basically puts the side pieces on your snowflake hexagon, right? So you have 2 layouts where you sew 3 together and then you put them all in a row and then they go to the next row and the next row and the next row. If you just want to do blocks because that doesn't work for you, because I've had a few requests, that's not working for me, how do I make it into a square? This is the alternate layout, and you can make them into squares. Now, as far as the border, this you're going to find in the PDF in the show notes, by the way. Now, when you're doing these, you put a little piece of black in between them, right? So there's a little bit of definition between. Now, it's your choice how big that black piece goes. If you want to have a similar size, this would be, you'd cut your strips to 3/4 of an inch. 1/2 inch, if you wanted 1/2 inch between, you cut your strips at 1 inch. If you want something, you know, a little bit more space, you go to 1.5 inches, and then you would have 1 inch of black in between, right? Now, those are all, you know, however you want to do this. Now, we say make your borders, make them as many as you need, but you don't have to make the entire quilt with this piece border, right? Like, you don't. If you're making a square, doesn't matter which layout you choose, you don't have to have them all around. You can go 3 and 5, and then 3 across the bottom and 5 up, and have the rest in black, right? It would give it a more modern aesthetic, and you're not looking at making, you know, several of these. But if you like this idea and you want to make several of these, by all means, go right ahead. Now, with this strip in between to give you that stop in between, you can now play with that. So your borders, you can kind of fit your borders that way, right? So if you would, because you've got that pineapple block here, you'd want to put a strip in between your pineapple block and your piece border, and it could be wider than needed, right, to make your border fit. So basically now you're playing around with how you want to make your border, right? So I do hope you give this one a try. I know we'll get more into in depth on borders and how you can fudge your borders and how you can play with them, but this was so much fun. You could make a quilt block out of these, and you make an entire quilt out of these if you want. So you got two going this way, no, two going this way, and two going that way. And that could create quite an interesting little block all on its own if you want to make a quilt just out of this, right? You could all put them all towards the center, and that would create a very interesting block as well, right? So this is kind of it's kind of a good, you can use this design if you use the block in several different ways, it's a good design. So keep that in mind. You could play with this and have all sorts of fun with this. But so until we see each other again, I hope you have an awesome time in your sewing room and everything is going good for you. Okay, you take care until we meet each other again. Bye. My husband and I would love to thank you for watching in our video and being so supportive of our channel. This has been just such an amazing journey we're on here on YouTube, and we wouldn't have been able to do it without you. So our thanks, truly our thanks for you. If there's anything you need, don't be afraid to contact me either through the Facebook book or through email. I'm trying to do as many viewer request videos as possible, and if I don't do it, you need to remind me, okay? So that's not a problem. But yes, it's been just absolutely amazing. Make sure you tell your gills I speak for free. We have a Facebook group. We do Zoom sew dates, and we give out nothing but free patterns. So I hope that you have an absolutely joyful year ahead, and your sewing room, everything is going for you, and life is great. Okay, you take care until we see each other again. Okay, bye.